how you doing? Welcome to Liverpool Community Podcast. I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch. And once again, I'm bringing you somebody who I feel is very interesting, that you will find very interesting. And I'm joined here today by Becky Ayres, the Managing Director of Liverpool Sound City. How you doing, Becky?
Great, thanks, Chase. Good to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Becky, because it's like we've come across Liverpool Sound City in our travels many a times. Me and you probably have crossed paths once or twice. I know you have with one of our directors, Roy Rothschild. But I've always been curious about Liverpool Sound City because I think everybody's seen the name, the posters plastered all around town. But you've been going for like since 2008.
That's right.
Yeah, and now you call it editions. Like it's like you just had your 17th edition. Yeah, why do you call that instead of your 17th year?
Just because there's some years when we haven't actually hosted a festival and conference. For example, during sort of 2020, that was obviously a year when no live events took place.
Yeah,
But
okay.
we did actually do an online edition that year. So it's because every year is, things don't always run in every single year. So we talk about it in those terms.
Well, for those who like been under a rock and may not know what Liverpool Sound City is, can you just give us kind of like an overview of what Liverpool Sound City is?
Yeah, so Sound City is a music industry conference and new music festival. So every year we showcase over 200 artists from all over the world in city centre venues in Liverpool. And it's really a focus for new music and for people that want to be in the industry or that are in the industry to come together and meet each other and see new artists that they might want to work with.
And one of your things is like you were saying is like I like it how you were saying how Liverpool Sound City's ethos is to showcase talent and to create a gravity in its words, the kind of deal. But you also said you like to use unusual spaces,
Yeah,
and Liverpool is a constantly evolving city, isn't it?
so much so.
And like so, it's like when we were talking in our pre-interview, you were mentioning places like the crypt and the attic and stuff. So I mean, over that, I mean, for those who are from Liverpool, I mean, like you've been into some really cool and interesting places. Like,
Yeah, so Sound City has taken place all over the city of Liverpool because, as you know, Liverpool is the world's capital of music.
yeah,
It still is. It's really blessed to have some really, really fantastic venue spaces. And, there's really great venues like, for example, the Zanzibar, Camp and Furnace is one. There's the Arts Club, which is,
oh,
sadly not
that's
with
me,
us
yeah.
now. But there's lots and lots of different size spaces where artists can play, whether they're established or whether they're just starting out. But we're also so lucky to have two fantastic world-class cathedrals. We've over the years we've had a lot of warehouse and car park spaces, and those things kind of go in cycles. And you'll end up finding that some venues will not be there, over a certain time period, or that because the city is growing and it's developing and there's development happening. For example, there was years when we had artists like Royal Blood and Charlie XCX playing in a car park, and some of those venues have gone. But every year at Sound City, we'll always make sure we've got some really exciting venue spaces for people that are fans of music to come and
Yeah.
enjoy really exciting new music.
And in the beginning, you said like you were one of the first, showcases that were in the St. George's Hall,
Yeah,
which is a beautiful venue, but very expensive now. But you guys were one of the ones that actually started it off. Would you say?
yeah. So back in 2008, we had the Wombats playing in St George's Hall
Yeah,
in the concert room, which is the really beautiful seated space
yeah.
that's around 300 capacity. And then the Zootons played there the year after. And now it's become quite expensive to hire St George's Hall, but it was really brilliant back in those days for people to go and see those artists in a really unique space. You know, we had Frank Turner who played in the Cathedral Crypt, and we had Years and Years who played in the cathedral the Anglican Cathedral, and you know those are kind of really exciting spaces that people don't expect to see artists performing.
Now, I think what's interesting is like for some of those music files that may be watching the show is that, like you've been dealing with artists, like we're talking about going all the way back to 2008, that, like back in the day were just like, artists like playing in these small little venues. Like you gave me an example of like you had Florence and the Machine at the Attic on Park
Yeah,
Street. I mean, how was that?
that was that was brilliant. I mean, you know, that was in the first year of Sound City. I think we probably paid them about £200 because they were new. You know, it was not big fees at that
Yeah.
stage, and it was, you know, it was amazing. It's so exciting to see a new artist that you have just discovered performing in a really, you know, in a really, really tiny space where you can get so close to them. There's also people like Stormzy who played in a very small tent when
Oh
we did
wow, get
the
out of
Bramley
here.
Moor Dock, which was back in 2015. We had Catfish and the Bottlemen who played in the Attic as well, to a very
Yeah.
small handful of people. You know, Jake Bugg, who played in the Epstein Theatre, and Paloma Faith, who played in I think probably the Attic as well, because the Attic is a very small, tiny space.
It
So
is. It is a very small
it's
space. I
so
mean, I'm
it's
just amazed that you could like do that. It was like mostly a bar and all that kind of stuff, and but also our man Phil was really impressed when you mentioned Gil Scott Heron at the Phil. Did
yeah,
you mean the Philharmonic or
yeah, the
the?
Philharmonic.
Oh, wow.
And that was back in, I think it was about 2010, and it was actually a launch party that we did for Sound City that was in some of the final tours that Gil Scott Heron did. But you know that was incredible, and it was just a really special performance. You know, so amazing to see an artist of that caliber and status playing somewhere like the Phil. So you know, it's really exciting, you know, to be able to. It's a privilege to work with new artists because, you know, we've had, for example, Ed Sheeran that played in Bumper, if you remember that,
Yeah, I remember Bumper.
on
Yeah,
Parliament
exactly.
Street. That was to about 300 people.
Wow.
There's all these examples of artists that have played when they've been really new and then they've gone on to better things, and people at the time when they see them don't know that that's going to be their favorite artist. But
Yeah.
it's all, you know, people that love new music are the people we want to see at Sound City, because they're the ones that will kind of be the ones that see those artists at that early stage, and then because they're fans of them, it just helps build that momentum around an artist.
Do you have any favorites going all the way back?
Yeah, so I think for me there was like some I think the Stormzy performance was a really amazing one, just because he was playing with an artist at the time called George the Poet, who was on the same stage, and George the Poet was headlining and Stormzy was playing, you know, earlier down the bill, and that was just really, really exciting to see him perform in front of fans. And you can see he had something special at the time. He was really, you know, he was just focusing on playing to the crowd, and not just as a crowd of people, but individual people in the crowd. And you can
Yeah.
tell, you know, you can tell when an artist is doing that, that they're really in it for the long term, because they know that each individual fan is not just a number, they're a real person that loves them and wants them to do well.
Yeah.
And so that's what's exciting when you see artists that do that, because you know that they're the ones that are really committed to the long term of their career, because they'll, even if they're playing to 10 people, they'll treat it like they're playing to a stadium.
Yeah. Well, usually I always ask people, when they come on, is treat them like a superhero and say ask their origin story. Now, you as a managing director of Liverpool Sound City, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are other people involved, but why
Yeah.
why why did you guys set up, or why did you feel the need to set up Liverpool Sound City?
So we set Sound City up in 2008, which was when Liverpool was capital of culture the European Capital of Culture, and that was the reason that we set it up, was because we believed, and we still do, that within 25 miles of where we live now in Liverpool is some of the best music that's ever been made has come from. So not just Liverpool, but Manchester as well, and and the Northwest. And so we felt that there were so many artists that were feeling that they had to move to London to have a career, and there were so many people in the industry. There was so much talent that was leaving the city and the city region and the wider Northwest to go to London. And we thought, people should really have the confidence and have the belief to want to, to be able to stay up and do things up here. And so we created Sound City to create that gravity, really, so that we could bring the music industry and the wider global community to Liverpool, and just give people that sort of sense of pride and sense of self-belief to do what they do and what they love right here in Liverpool.
Well, I got to tell you, I kind of agree with you, really, because it's like I was saying, being here for like about 22 years, I remember seeing the Zootons, at one of the local Liverpool film nights at the Fact, where it was just kind of like if you're a local filmmaker, you could put on a film and like, kind of crazy off-putting films and everything else like that. And the Zootons had a video that they shot in night vision and everything, but it was so like, what? Then only just like about a couple of months later, somebody takes them to New York and they make Valerie.
Yeah.
And they blow. Do you know what I mean? Same thing with the choral when, Lauren Eastman did the Wicker Man video.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you're right. There's so much talent in the city that is unmined. So, I know that's not a word. But what you guys do is you don't just do showcases. You also do artist development. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so every year we work with, because we've worked with a lot of artists over the years with Sound City, we've seen so many fantastic people coming through. We sort of knew that there was a real need for artists to have like a bit of wider support, really, because we've got such a big network through Sound City of, people in the music industry with, lots of different areas that artists can use to grow and develop. We set up an artist development scheme to work with 12 artists per year where we can really just, kind of work intensively with them and talk to them about what they want to achieve, what they need, what's holding them back, what are their challenges, what do they want to do to get to the next level, and what do they see as the next level. And then we work with them, and we work with them on songwriting, on things like how to do their own marketing, how to...
You mentioned PRS.
PRS for music, for example. We bring them in to talk to them and really just work with them on a quite intensive level over a 12-month period. And we've had artists like the Mysterines who are now, they're playlisted on Radio 1 all the time, and they supported the Arctic Monkeys on tour. We've got the Royston Club who just signed to Modern Sky. We've got, lots of artists that, all of them are very similar in the fact that they have a real burning desire to, to do something really amazing with their music.
And you also said you had like some support around this, like people like Vivo and Virgin Music as well.
Yeah, so we have
like a sponsorship.
Yeah, we have a number of sponsors that we work with. So we work with like Virgin Music, who've come in to work with us on Sound City and to kind of help us with the artist development on the distribution side. Also TuneCore, which is a distribution service, work with us on that. Vivo, they're working with us on the artist development scheme to help artists with their, just with how they do their video. TikTok as well, we're talking to about some masterclasses, because TikTok have just sponsored Eurovision. So,
oh wow, I didn't know that actually.
Yeah, so they're one of the main sponsors for them, but they're really keen to work with artists that not just in sort of city centres and just have much more of a understanding of what's going on across the whole UK.
So you have to have your finger on the pulse of what's new and what's going on. But your vision has just been in Liverpool and everything else like that. So, but TuneCore is something that a lot of people might not have heard of. What is TuneCore?
TuneCore's a distribution service. So
Mm.
if you're an artist and you basically want to release your own music, you can work with a distributor like TuneCore. There's others like Ditto Music that are based here in Liverpool as well. There's DistroKid, there's Believe Digital, and lots of others. And it's basically those distributors will help an artist get their music onto all the different platforms where they can, sell their music, like iTunes and the direct to fan sites.
So again, around the support around artist development, you guys also like going to the tree, like looking for the apples before they fall. So you do these mini Sound City
Yeah.
things where you deal with young people in schools. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so because there's so many, the music industry is basically a £5.5 billion industry to the UK economy every year, and that's a UK music statistic.
Wow.
So that's how much it's worth now, on an annual basis. But when you're in school, you don't realise what the opportunities are in music, because most music teachers, through no fault of their own, they don't know about the music industry, because a lot of them will have come through the route of being a really great, person that plays an instrument. So they might be a great guitar player or a great pianist or a great drummer, and they'll become a music teacher, but they don't know about the wider music industry. So what we're doing at the moment is working with the people that do music in schools, the music education hubs, and we're doing mini sound cities in places like Warrington and Birkenhead, Knowsley and Sefton, taking Sound City to those places.
And you bring professionals to do lectures as well,
Yes, we
don't
do.
you?
We bring people from labels, from music agents, from promoters, distribution companies, across the whole spectrum of the industry, really, just to show young people what the opportunities are within the music industry,
Great.
and also to help them understand that there are opportunities right here
Yeah.
in their city. And so if their mum and dad, for example, or their whoever or their caregiver doesn't understand, they might say, why do you want to do music? Then it just, the idea is to kind of help teachers and parents understand too that music is not just about playing an instrument. It's also about having a career in a £5.5 billion sector, which
Yeah.
is, because there's so many jobs that make up the music industry that people don't know about, because, what you don't know, you don't know.
So many jobs in the creative media industry, exactly, and unfortunately, you don't get to learn that in schools,
No.
especially when they say that you got media studies and stuff like that. But hey, it's out there. I can't believe how fast the time has been running, but I must get to near the end here where we talk about what do you think the effect and impact of Liverpool Sound City has been on the city?
I think since we started it back in 2008, things have changed a lot. There is a lot more gravity here. You've got companies like Centric Music and Ditto, who are global companies, and in publishing and distribution that just that they are in Liverpool, but they've got a global impact. There's also lots more festivals that are up here. There's a lot more managers. There's artists that actually live here and have careers here. We're only 2 hours from London and here in Liverpool, but we're nanosecond with technology. And so, I think there's a lot. And now, because it's so expensive to live in the south, people know that they've got a better quality of life here and that they can live here and have a career. And, there's amazing work that's going on. What you're doing here with Big Condo is fantastic, giving people an opportunity
Yeah.
to get into music, and it all contributes to, to make Liverpool a really amazing music city.
Yeah, music up here in the north, and everything. And like, you were talking about, the record label of Modern Sky, where over the years, record labels have been kind of scarce in Liverpool.
Yeah.
And people, like you said, had to go down to London, the print white labels and stuff like that, and they weren't finding. I mean, yeah, there was Delta Sonic and Honey Records and all that other kind of stuff, but Modern Sky is really making a name for itself. I mean, some of the names of the artists that she threw out, like I thought this was fun. The lottery winners and stuff like that. I mean, there are others, aren't there?
Yeah, the Lottery Winners just had a number one album last week in the UK charts.
There you go.
And there's also the Lathams that have had two UK number one albums. Jamie Webster, who's selling out the Pierhead.
That's it.
Mick Head, who's just come back.
The Elastic Band.
Exactly. He's just had a number one album as well. And there's, it's really positive that that's happening, because it means that the spotlight is on Liverpool and the BPI, which is the British phonographic industry, and they basically account for all the record sales across the UK. Last year they said Liverpool was the number one city outside London for number one albums in the UK.
Yeah.
Which is amazing, and that has you want that to then have a ripple effect to benefit not just those artists but other people that are coming through the industry.
Yeah.
So the industry spotlight is on Liverpool, and it does encourage talent to come through.
And like you said, it's not always about record labels anymore. I mean, in our
No.
new modern technology, you mentioned about a group from Sheffield that has been doing well with self-releasing, which are called the Ratings, right?
Yeah, the Ratons headlined Sound City 2 weeks ago, so they were our Saturday headliner, and they've done amazingly well. There's 5 lads from Rotherham who just have come up themselves. They've played for years. They've honed their songwriting. They've self-released, and they had a number one album earlier this year just through doing it themselves. And they just had that passion, and they were made up to headline Sound City because it meant a lot to them. That they'd kind of come through. As yourself, you see an artist that goes to number one and you think, some people think, that's just happened for them, but that it takes years and it takes a lot of blood, sweat and tears to get to that level. And it's just so fantastic when you see artists that have really, really battled it out and they get to that level and they've got those fans that have stayed with them on that journey.
Yeah. I think it's amazing about the passion that you seem to have for music there, Becky. I mean, as far as the future for Liverpool Sound City, I mean, there's one big inspiration that you always talk about, and which is...
We do have a very bold aim that we want to be like the South by Southwest of Europe in the next 10 years. I think Liverpool is the place to do that because the venues that we have here and the music, the rich music history that we've got. And it's not just about indie music at all, as we talked about earlier. It's about all other genres as well, of hip hop and electronic music, of punk, of reggae, we have lots of outlets for all those genres, and it's important that
And do those genres play at Sound City? Because you got many stages.
It's not just about indie music, it is about all diverse genres. I think traditionally we have been known for more indie music, but that is changing because people's tastes are changing, and we want to and those genres have always been there, but people also listen to lots of different music. Most people are not just fans of one genre.
Yeah. So Becky, I'd like to once again thank you for showing up here at Big Condo Studios here on the Liverpool Community Podcast and everything. You're welcome anytime and stuff like that. And I'm your host, Chase Johnson Lynch. And you know what? For now, we out of here.